Hey everyone, and welcome. If you work in tech, you know that precision is everything, right? I mean, one single misplaced character can crash a whole system. Well, what if I told you the same thing is true for language? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a super powerful tool that brings that exact same level of clarity to how you talk and write about technology. We're talking about the adjective clause. Okay, does this sound familiar? Which file, which server, which user reported the error? You get these vague questions and they just lead to, well, more questions. It's that kind of ambiguity that just grinds projects to a halt and creates so much confusion. To get anything done, you've got to know exactly which file, exactly which server, and exactly which user we're talking about. And look, this isn't just some small pet peeve. In the world of technology, being unclear isn't just confusing, it's expensive. It can lead to some really critical errors, blown deadlines, and honestly, some seriously frustrated teams. The solution? We need to build our language to be just as precise as our code. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the precision problem and look at our core tool for identifying nouns. Then, we'll expand that syntax toolkit. After that, we'll see how punctuation can be a powerful feature, not just a rule. And finally, we'll get into some pro-level tips for making your writing concise and formal. Let's get started. Okay, first up, core tool, identifying nouns. This is all about understanding the fundamental building block of clarity. So let's jump right in. Our main tool here is the adjective clause. Just think of it as the secret weapon for adding clarity. Its entire job is to point to a noun and give us that extra bit of detail we need so that everyone on the team is on the same page. So what is an adjective clause really? At its heart, it's a little group of words that has its own subject and verb, but it acts like one single adjective. Its whole mission in life is to latch onto a noun and tell you more about it, either by describing it, pointing it out in a crowd, or just giving you more info. By the way, you might also hear it called a relative clause. They're the same thing. Enough with the definitions, right? Let's actually see how this works. Imagine you've got two simple sentences. The developer updated the code. Okay, simple enough. And she fixed the bug. Right now, these are just two separate pieces of information. So how can we link them together to be way more specific? This is where the magic happens. We combine them with an adjective clause. Check it out. The developer who fixed the bug updated the code. See that little phrase, who fixed the bug? That is our adjective clause, and it's pointing right at the developer. Suddenly, we're not talking about just any developer. Nope, we're talking about the one who fixed the bug. See? That's what I mean by precision. Now, to build these things, we need some special connecting words. They're called relative pronouns. When the pronoun is the subject of the clause, you've got three main options in your toolkit. You use who for people, so the analyst who reviewed the dashboard. You use which for things, like the tool which scans dependencies. And then there's that, which is super flexible. It works for people or things. For example, the module that handles login. These are your workhorses. Okay, but what if the noun we're talking about is the object in our little clause? For example, in the phrase we selected the framework is the object. Well, here's a really cool and useful trick. When that happens, you can often just drop the pronoun. So instead of saying the framework that we selected, you can just say the framework we selected. It sounds cleaner, it's more direct, and you'll see this all the time in modern tech writing. All right, section 2, expanding your syntax toolkit. Now that we've got the basics down, let's add a few more specialized tools to our collection for dealing with place, time, and possession. This table breaks it down nicely. For possession, when something belongs to someone or something, we use whose. So, the developer whose pull request was approved. Perfect. For a place, you guessed it, we use where. As in, the folder where the backups are stored. And for a time, we use when, like the week when the system failed. Each one has a very specific, very clear job. So, here's a tricky one. What do you do when there's a preposition involved, like on or in? Well, you've basically got two choices. There's the very formal way. The system on which the application runs is stable. You put the preposition right before the pronoun. Then there's the much more common way. The system the application runs on is stable. You just pop the preposition at the end. Honestly, both are correct, but you're going to hear and use that second one way more often in daily emails and team chats. Okay, next section, punctuation as a feature. And I want you to really lean in for this one because it's so important. We're going to use commas to control meaning. I want you to stop thinking of commas as just boring grammar rules and start seeing them for what they are, a powerful feature that lets you control the meaning of your sentences.
Okay, look at these two sentences side by side. The difference is just a couple of commas. But believe me, commas change everything. On the left, with no commas, the students who completed the task received feedback. This clause is essential. It tells us which students. It means only the specific group of students who finished the task got feedback. Now, look at the right, with commas. The students who completed the task received feedback. Here, the clause is just extra, non-essential information. It implies that all the students completed the task, and by the way, they all got feedback. See the massive difference in meaning?
Let's put this in a tech context. The main server, which was upgraded last week, is running smoothly. Those commas are a signal. They're telling us that which was upgraded last week is just some extra nice-to-know info. Why? Because we already know which server we mean. The sentence implies there's only one main server. Now, if you had 5 main servers, you'd have to remove those commas to specify which one of the 5 is running smoothly. That's how powerful commas are. All right, let's level up. This section is pro-level, concise and formal. We're going to look at how to really polish your technical writing and make it incredibly sharp. One of the absolute best ways to make your writing more professional is a technique called reduction. You can take a full adjective clause and shrink it down to a shorter phrase. So you go from this, the files that are stored in the cloud are encrypted, to this, the files stored in the cloud are encrypted. See that? We just dropped that R. The meaning is identical, but the second version is so much tighter and more concise. Now, there is one important rule to remember. This little trick, this reduction, it only works when the clause starts with a subject pronoun, like who, which, or that, and it's followed by a be verb, like is or are. That's why files that are stored works so well. You can't do this with clauses that start with whose or where, for example, so just keep that in mind. Okay, here's a great one for your formal writing. Think reports, official documentation, that kind of thing. When you've mentioned a group of items or people and you want to comment on a part of that group, you can use the slick pattern. For example, the project has 5 modules, 3 of which are complete. Or for people, the team interviewed 10 applicants, several of whom had cloud experience. It just sounds so polished and professional, doesn't it? And for our last pro-level tip, here's another very formal pattern. This one is an alternative for whose. You can use a noun plus of which structure. So instead of saying a model whose accuracy improved, you could write, we reviewed a model, the accuracy of which improved after tuning. Now, you probably won't use this in a Slack message, but you will definitely see it in very formal technical papers. It's good to have in your back pocket. So let's step back and look at what we've covered. You've just seriously upgraded your communication toolkit. You can now use these adjective clauses to write bug reports that are crystal clear. You can describe complex systems without confusion. You can create professional technical docs. You can give project updates where nobody has to ask, wait, which one are you talking about? This, right here, is the key to communicating effectively in a tech environment. All right, to wrap this up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about the very next thing you have to write for work. It could be an email, a bug report, a piece of documentation. My question for you is, how are you going to use one of these patterns we talked about today to make it more precise? How will you eliminate that little bit of ambiguity and make your communication absolutely crystal clear?